I think it so happens that the Department of Registration of Persons is actually under the Office of the Vice President, though under Minister, the Honorable Kajwang, but there's also another Minister for Heritage. So these issues, we've been looking at them, and there's a Director of Registration of Persons, Mrs. Mugo, who had to revise our own circular, right, because you have to tell her, so that we do not end up with a situation where you as a headmaster or head mistress fail to register a Kenyan child to sit for exam on account of lack of birth certificate. That cannot be heard of. In fact, that is purely unconstitutional. A Kenyan child is entitled to all the rights that any other Kenyan child is entitled to. So as we take note of the fact it's important to know how many we are and to get into that discipline of collecting data and statistics. I heard, of course, that a lot of you are not ICT compliant, or some of you are. As we move in that direction, data collection becomes absolutely vital. And that did not be seen like happened in the case of my mother. She didn't know that I needed to be registered upon birth because I wasn't born in hospital. And therefore, so a lot of children are like that. But that does not mean they are lesser of Kenyan children than the others. I therefore want to conclude my remarks this afternoon by once again thanking you, head teachers, your colleagues in secondary school, I'm sure also doing well. We see general improvement quantitatively, I'm sure, I think qualitatively, in education in the province, which is now divided into 6 counties. Because the time for the kind of leadership that is sensitive is now. And you cannot run down a colleague. Everybody will come up, like I came up with this idea of 24-hour economy, which I think is what is driving now a lot of us in the Grand Coalition government. Let me clarify your fears, your concerns about what has been happening with the shuttle diplomacy. Because as head teachers, your opinion leaders, and you should know the facts. And then I conclude. We went around Africa, obviously, upon being requested to do so by the President of the Republic, His Excellency Mwai Kibaki, because it was felt that having gotten our new constitution, we need to be able to put in place the institutions that we shall all believe in. An independent judiciary, and a police force that is strongly reformed. I think we end up with a force as well as equipped, if not within the African setup, because I do not know how Mzungu can operate to do investigation effectively. Aende Maungu, aende Takaungu, akafanye Mzungu kutoka FBI, atapata shida sana. Because he will not even know how to cooperate, how to discuss with the local people. Disciplined police force. We are saying to the International Criminal Court, where Kenya is a member in good standing. We have our own Justice Aluoch, Lady Justice Aluoch, for whom I personally campaigned to be a judge of the ICC at the ICC. And when I visited through The Hague 2 years ago, she was able to meet me along with her colleagues. I felt this is good. Let me tell you one thing, and this is the reality of the geopolitics, the international politics right now. After the collapse of the Cold War, you remember the Berlin War? After the collapse of the Berlin War, when communism literally disappeared, in fact, what shocked the world was what came through religion as intolerance. The world has now hoped that the time to get the peace dividend has arrived. Kila mtu apate share yake ya amani yake. My friends, like it or not, the whole world is now governed by capitalism, where you have to sweat, where you must work very hard. But some of us, of course, you bring in these social programs. Like we put, that's the reason I said you have the best constitution. Ni kwamba under its terms, it even makes sure that at 65, kama huna ajira, huna chochote, serikali lazima ikupatie pesa fulani. This is the most progressive constitution. But the truth about what I'm telling you now is that we have 5 permanent members of the Security Council. The Americans, the Russians, the Chinese, the French, and the British. And each one of them has a veto power. This, what I've shared with you, is probably very deep. And I want you to reflect on it as head teachers. Reflect on the future of this country. Reflect on your own future. And do not be led by emotion. That there will be justice for the victims. And that our internally displaced Kenyans will go back to their homes with dignity and live as fellow countrymen. Therefore, having told you that, it matters not whether Kalonzo ends up being president or a private citizen. What I care for is a nation that I can say I played my role in restoring the dignity and the well-being of this country.